Today, we're here to learn about DNS, zones, and records. First, let's start with a quick review of the DNS. As you may remember, DNS is the protocol that's used to convert the name that someone types in their browser into a number that the computer can understand. So for example, the user types www.ibm.com. Their PC talks to the local resolver, which then goes out to the DNS, to an authoritative DNS name server, who looks up that name, www.ibm.com, and returns the IP address for www.ibm.com, and then the user is able to get to the web page for IBM and go view all of our products. Now, this all works great, but you may be now responsible for DNS and need to set it up for your particular application. So you're wondering, what are these things that I'm hearing about? Zones, records, RR sets, all this different terminology. What does it all mean, and how do I use it? So let's start at the beginning with what is a zone. So a DNS zone is an area of administrative control of a portion of the DNS namespace. So for example, we might have a zone for ibm.com. And inside the zone, we're going to have a number of records. That's right. And records are things like www would be the record. The type is IN. I'll go over all this in more detail in a minute. It's an A record type, and the IP address is 9991. Now, I might have another record, also www. Actually, we'll do 4 dubs. IN, A, and it's 9992. What this means is that there's 2 records with the same label, with the same name, and that's called a resource record set. You'll often hear that in the DNS terminology. All it means is that there's multiple records with the same name, but different values, different answers. I want to also mention here a special record type called a name server record, and that's used to do what we call delegate the zone to another group. The use case for this is, for example, maybe the central CIO team is managing IBM.com, but there's another group for which you want to give access to a portion of the DNS, and you want to give them their own zone on their own server. So in that case, you'll set up a special record type called subzone. This is the name. It'll point to a name server record, NS, and we'll just say it's going to subzone nameserver.ibm.com. Now what that does is it creates this redirection to another zone called subzone, subzone.ibm.com. And in here, we can also set up records. So say maybe that team wants to set up an API. So they create a record API, also an A record, and it points to 991010. So this would, when someone does a lookup over there for api.sz.ibm.com, it will first go to this zone, which will then redirect it via this NS record to a subzone where it will find the answer api.subzone.ibm.com and return 9.9.9.10.10. So that's an overview of zones, which are an area of administrative control of a portion of the DNS namespace, and records, which are the entries or the rows in the database that actually provide the data. So now let's talk a little bit about the different types of records that are available. So if I go over here, and let's talk about the format of records. So records have a number of fields. First, they have the owner field, which is like the www. They then have a class. So let's fill this in as I go. So this is www. The class would be IN. There are a number of classes defined, but the only one you'll ever see used is IN, which stands for Internet. The other ones are mainly experimental or used for odd use cases, which you almost never see. Then we then have a type. The most common example you'll see is the A record, and then you'll have a value. And the value is the number here, 1.1.1.1, for example. Let's go through a few different types just to give you a feel for what are the types out there. I'm not going to cover them all, but before I get started, I want to refer you to a website, IANA.org. That's the official body that maintains the list of all the different record types, and you can go there and see the full list of what's available. But I'll cover the main ones that people tend to use. So the next one we have is called the Quad A record, which is written as 4 A's, and it's for an IPv6 address, so something like 2001:127 would be an IPv6 address. Another common type we have is the mail server address, which is an MX record. That has two portions to the value. It's got a priority and the mail server name, so something like mail.ibm.com. It allows you to set up multiple name servers, so maybe I have another one that's priority 2, that's maybe mail2.ibm.com. What that means is that the sender will first try the priority 1 entry. If that doesn't work, then it'll try the priority 2 entry. So there's kind of built-in redundancy enabled through the DNS. Another common type is called the CNAME. So if I have one, just take a label foo, IN CNAME. And this one stands for canonical name. It's essentially a redirection. So in this case, if someone types in foo.ibm.com, I'll redirect them to www.ns1.com. And that's just a straight text replacement. foo.ibm.com gets replaced with www.ibm.com. You'll often see this used when you're deploying your website into a CDN, where the CDN will provide you the value to use for your canonical name or your CNAME record. Another common one is a text record. And so if we have a record like this, text, and we can just say hello world. If someone types in hello.ibm.com, they'll get back the text hello world. And the last one, which I showed over here, is just the NS record. Just for completeness, we'll add it in, and we'll have subzone ns.ibm.com. And again, that's for delegating your zone to a different entity so that they can also work on the zone. Again, these are just a few examples. Check out the site iana.org for the full list. And hopefully now you have a good idea of the terminology of DNS, and you're on your way to becoming a DNS administrator. Thank you. If you like this video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or want to share your thoughts about this topic, please leave a comment below.